but the evidence looks pretty good.
No, the evidence for the conquest of Canaan is in fact very bad, and the reason that biblical scholars in general don't believe in the historicity of the conquest of Canaan is because the evidence is very bad. The evidence is especially bad for the destruction of Jericho at the time when the conquest was supposed to have taken place. Here are some choice quotes to that effect. Here is Christine Hayes. Indeed, archaeology reveals that some of the sites said to have been destroyed by Joshua and the Israelites were not even occupied in the Late Bronze Age. Excavations of Jericho and Ai indicate that both towns were laid waste 200 years before the probable time of the conquest, so that there were no walls in Jericho for Joshua to bring down. Of 20 identifiable sites said to be captured by Joshua and the next generations, only 2 show destruction layers for this time, Hatzor and Bethel, and yet Hatzor's capture is contradicted elsewhere in the Bible. In Judges 4 and 5 it is listed among the Canaanite cities that the Israelites failed to take. Here is John Collins. Similar results were obtained for Jericho and Ai, the 2 showpieces of the conquest in Joshua. Neither was a walled city in the Late Bronze period. Of nearly 20 identifiable sites that were captured by Joshua or his immediate successors according to the biblical account, only 2, Hatzor and Bethel, have yielded archaeological evidence of destruction at the appropriate period. Ironically, the biblical evidence of Hatzor is problematic, since it is said to still be in Canaanite hands in Judges 4 and 5. In light of the available evidence, we must conclude that the account of the conquest of Joshua is largely, if not entirely, fictitious. Here's Israel Finkelstein and Neil Silberman. In the case of Jericho, there was no trace of a settlement of any kind in the 13th century BCE, and the earlier Late Bronze settlement dating to the 14th century BCE was small and poor, almost insignificant and unfortified. There was also no sign of a destruction. Thus, the famous scene of the Israelite forces marching around the walled town with the Ark of the Covenant causing Jericho's mighty walls to collapse by the blowing of their war trumpets was, to put it simply, a romantic mirage. Here's Megan Bishop Moore and Brad E. Kelly. Thus, new archaeological evidence and new interpretations of existing archaeological evidence cause the conquest theory to be abandoned. Although scholars have not entirely given up on the idea that military action against the Canaanite cities may have helped unify early Israel and provide it with territory, the notion of early Israel coming into the land as a unified entity that caused mass destructions in Palestine is no longer seen as tenable by most historians of ancient Israel. Here's Michael Coogan. Re-excavation of many of those sites and more refined ceramic chronology, however, made it clear that some of the sites had not in fact been occupied at the time, and that the destructions were not all contemporaneous. While some Israelite groups may have succeeded in defeating their Canaanite neighbors, many others coexisted alongside them. Thus, the conquest model has largely been abandoned by scholars, but no other reconstruction has gained general acceptance. There is no evidence for the conquest of Canaan as it's described in the book of Joshua. The fact that a couple cities were destroyed at some point by somebody does not count as evidence. But if you would like some book recommendations to think about this more, I got you covered.